It really does seem like the world wants us overweight, sick, and complacent. It really does seem like there is a war on for our minds and for our health and for everything. That there are people out there of all political ideologies, by the way, this is not a political thing. I mean, it is, but it's not, who want us reliant on others, who want us to rely not on our communities and our families and our neighbors and on ourselves, but no, on those with resources, on others, so that they can exercise real power over our lives. And we see this in the nutrition space. Whenever someone comes out with a natural foods approach, a whole foods approach to correcting your health, they get poo pooed. Now, think about this. If the diet can't be monetized successfully, and by that, I don't mean someone selling you a t shirt or a coffee cup or some coaching lessons. I mean monetized in the $1 billion range. The diet gets excoriated if it threatens the underlying profit margins of the various industries of things that make the remedies for curing what sugar and processed foods did to you. We saw that for years with keto, but then you may have noticed that the attitude about the keto diet has been changing from the media because they're the mouthpiece for all this. In 2022, we saw something weird, more than we'd seen before, and that is all of a sudden media outlets softening their tone to keto. Still hostile in a lot of ways, but nothing like it was in the previous years. And I've done videos about how they're accepting the keto diet. And I noted then, and I'll note it again now, why that is. All you have to do is open your eyes when you're at the grocery store. If you're on the carnivore diet or even on a clean, sane version of the keto diet, you're probably doing all your shopping on those outer aisles of the store, maybe with some exceptions. You go down to if you drink coffee, you need to go buy coffee, go down to that aisle, whatever. But mostly you're staying in the outer edges of the store for the meat and the dairy and the produces if you're eating plants. But you're staying away from the middle aisles where all the processed stuff is. But if you've ever ventured into the processed aisles, you'll have seen something incredible. More and more keto items. I was once at a Walmart and I looked down the breakfast sugar aisle, or the cereal aisle as they call it, and I noticed they had the keto cereals. It's the weirdest thing. So I went down there to take a look. And lo and behold, for about $10 a box, they had the keto cereals, and I had tried them once years, back when they first came out, and they were trying to taste like I don't know, Cocoa Puffs or something, but you bit into them, they crumbled. It was not a very good experience. The mouth, like breakfast cereals, are part of their appeal is the mouthfeel, and these didn't taste like food. They tasted like packing peanuts or something that had a chocolate flavor added to them. But then I noticed it wasn't just cereal. There were other keto items there too. Keto breakfast bars, like explicitly keto. And when you pick a package and you look at them, they either fit a keto diet, not what we would call cleaner Mediterranean, the Thomas DeLauer style keto diet, what he always advocates, but they would fit like a kind of a dirty keto way of doing it. And you can always tell what those are because their laundry lists or they have a laundry list of ingredients, oftentimes with ingredients that you have to go online with Google to figure out what those are. With food, you should never have to do that. I mean, granted, if you're at the store and you see a plant, I don't know, if let's say you go to an ethnic store, some kind of an Asian grocer, and you see vegetables that you're not sure what they are, so you go and you Google what is a durian, or you go, the specific types of vegetables that you see. That's one thing. But the ingredients list of food should never be a mystery. It should never be, that's 15-syllable word. What does it actually mean? And you have to go on and start reading chemistry sites to see what this stuff does. You should never have to do that. But the keto world is full of that now. That's actually one of the reasons, a big reason I stopped doing keto is because at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff wasn't keto anyway. It was the highly processed foods that still triggered sugar cravings, still contributed to overeating, hyper palatable foods, except these just had fewer net carbs. Great, that's wonderful, except what happens when, you sort of lose track of time and you're having those super flavorful keto chips. You eat too many of them, and then you stop losing the weight you're trying to lose. Go figure. Not to mention all the problems you get from eating processed foods in large amounts. And that's why keto has gotten more and more acceptable socially. And really, I think it's why you're beginning to see the anti-proper human diet powers that be turning their gaze towards carnivore. And, Dr. Saladino's animal-based thing and other things, because you can't make $1 billion industry that way. You can't make products that you can dupe people into buying at the grocery store. What's the most processed carnivore food you've ever seen? If you eat spices, probably like Chomp's meat sticks. Those are probably the most processed carnivore food I've ever seen. And that's to say they're not that processed. What do they have in them? Some spices. That's it. You open the package and you want to eat that thing or refrigerate it because it's going to go bad pretty quick because it's still food, still recognizably food. Beyond that, I haven't seen too many, that sort of thing anyway. I haven't seen too many shelf-stable processed carnivore foods. There's good reason for that. And that's one of the reasons they're coming after this diet, and because it's a way out of that system that is centrally controlled financially. I mean, think about it this way. What happens if even 1% of the population were to adopt a whole foods keto or low carb lifestyle where they buy all their food, all their meat comes from a local rancher, if they can afford it, or from a mail service like ButcherBox or any of their competitors, or basically from something that's not part of the centralized system. And if they're doing low carb, they're getting their vegetables from a farmer's market, or they're growing them themselves, trading with their neighbors. Heaven forfend, you get to know your neighbors again, and your neighbor's growing a bunch of tomatoes, and you're growing cucumbers or whatever it is you grow, and you trade back and forth. What happens when that starts happening? What is the consequence of that? Money behind this, but there's other things too. And there's a certain high-profile billionaire out there buying something like 250 million acres of farmland, while also out there advocating for everyone to adopt a plant-based diet. What do you think that's about? That's one, his own bottom line, and two, power and influence. Don't let them do it to you. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Not in this space. It shouldn't. Just don't make decisions along those lines that work against your own best interests and the best interests of other people trying to do this. Hold the people accountable that you might otherwise be inclined to give your support to if they are out there doing things to try to undermine a proper human diet. In this space, people avoid the political conversations a lot, but at the end of the day, it's unavoidable. Congress is going to be debating the farm bill soon. They're going to have to. It's been years since there's been a new one. The farm bill is how the U.S. government subsidizes agriculture. I think the last time they did this, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about plant-based meat alternatives. Now there's nothing but talk about plant-based meat alternatives. It's why I can do 2 to 4 videos a week on this channel about plant-based meat alternative videos or topics. That's going to have to be in the next farm bill. I guarantee you're going to see something there. And the people pushing that want you and I to eat less meat. They want us eating almost no meat by mid-century. I plan in 2050, if I'm still around, God willing, I'm still around in 2050, I plan to be, enjoying my brisket and ribeyes and ground beef the way everyone else does. And I want everyone to have that option if they want it for themselves. If you want to eat a plant-based burger, that's your business. But don't try to use the power of the state to make me and everyone else do it, because we've been priced out of the real meat. Because people pushing this stuff, they'll still be eating their ribeyes. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. That's how this has always worked all through human history. Rules for thee, but not for me. I don't want to deal with that. You shouldn't have to deal with that either. So yes, there is a war on for your perception of reality, for what is going on, for everything about how you and I should be living. They don't care about you. They don't. What they want is your money, and they want your support in the political realm. That is what they want. That's all they care about. They want your submission. But if you're doing the carnivore diet, regardless of your politics, you're probably not the type of person who sits there and submits. Why would you do that? And come to and then adopt a nutrition style that basically is a way of life that defies the conventional wisdom on almost everything. If you really get down to it, there's almost no part of life that doesn't get touched on. I'm amazed when I see bodybuilders claiming that you need carbs to put on muscle. That's not true. That's not true at all. Best bodybuilder of the 20th century, back before the advent of steroids, was someone who ate basically a carnivore diet. He ate beef and eggs almost exclusively. He'd have a cheat meal like once a month or something, where he'd eat a bunch of whatever he wanted. Being a professional bodybuilder, he could do that. But otherwise, he advocated a pure carnivore diet back before that terminology existed. And that's an athleticism, but we hear that you apparently can't perform at a high level if you are a carnivore. This news Dr. Sean Baker. world record holder in some rowing machine stuff. It's news to a lot of people. We see this, of course, in talk about the environment, about how unsustainable eating meat is, when that's not true. The opposite of that is true. That if you want to restore soil health, you need to start doing regenerative agriculture with animals, letting them graze on those depleted lands to let nature take its course. We see it in every aspect of life, it seems like. And when you go carnivore, you begin to have your relationships with your friends change, because basic things that you do with friends and family suddenly gets more complicated. You're eating different things than your own family members if they haven't joined you on this way of eating. You see all these things. And that's why we need to take a more holistic approach. So as we get into 2023, let's promise ourselves to really take a bigger, wider view of things as carnivores. And when I say wider, I mean begin to see the connections on how these things, what we do as carnivores, how it impacts other things in the world. Our adversaries are asking us to do that, but we've got better information than they do. And plus, we're the underdogs, so it makes the battle more fun, I think. I've always found the underdog position to be something compelling about that. And we are, because we don't have the institutional power behind us. We have some ranchers who support us. That's about it. If you look to see what they're dealing with in the legal sphere, they're our natural allies, and I think we should work with them. I'm curious what you think of this. In what ways can you see that being carnivore has impacted your life outside of, the metabolic issues you're dealing with, the health things? What other ways, and how does it bump up against problems you see in the world? There's a certain slant in that people have detected in the carnivore space that they say that people tend to be a lot more conservative, and I think there's some truth to that. But there are a number of influencers I could point you to that I can tell just by watching them talk about things that would not describe them. So it's not necessarily so cut and dry as that. But let me know if you're not, in the comments, because whether you agree with me in general that this is definitely not just a one side of the mythical aisle or the other kind of a problem, that this is something much bigger, that there are people out there who, because they want to control how you eat, they want to control other aspects of your life too. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. Remember, in the carnivore space, your opinion matters, and you are the last and final decision maker for anything that you eat, and that's how it should be. So let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time today.